Um, Bishop Bloomer, a lot of things are happening in the world that we live in today. And this is now a time now that look at where the Prophetic College, look at where the gathering of the prophetic has gone from 10 years ago. I want you to think about that for a moment. We started at your church as a panel, having to be in brick and mortar. Today, we're sitting in click and order. Jesus. What do you want to say about that?
Well, you said, what should we expect? And I want to say we should expect the unexpected. The way that the Lord is functioning, of course, he's giving us instructions, but at the same time, he's unveiling it as if we were in a fog storm, where you're driving in your car and there's a fog, and you can only see in the road in 2 or 3 car length increments. And if you stop, you'll be overwhelmed by the fog. But if you keep on going, the road unveils itself. And when it gets very, very thick where you can't see, there's a red, pink light that is flashing, which is a car that might be 5 or 6 car lengths in front of you, to let you know that the road is still there. So we've entered into a place where people don't really understand or really know what is going on. But at the same time, he's revealing things to us. He's unfolding it. And we just have to be still and know that he is God. I'm going to need a healing during this session if I don't find my glasses, because I can't see. I'm a little younger than you are, but I'm still dealing with my issues.
You know, Bishop Bloomer, there's a scripture I want to bring up, and I believe it's, and I'm going to see how this comes across. And the scripture is in First Chronicles, and let me see if I can share this screen here in this meeting here. And I want us to look at this here for a moment. And I'm working this out of my, tell me if you can see the scripture, everybody.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And Prophet Janice, can you begin reading this for me in First Chronicles chapter 12 and verse 32? And what does it say?
The children of Issachar.
Okay, hold it right there. So here, I'm showing you Issachar here, over here on the left here, which is a son of Jacob and Leah. And so we understand that Issachar was a son of Jacob and Leah. Leah was the one that Jacob didn't want. We know Judah also came out of Leah. So it's interesting that oftentimes the one you don't want is the one that God sends the promise through. And the children of Issachar, which were men that had what?
Understanding of the times.
Good. And Bishop Bloomer, how important do you think it is for us to have the understanding of the times in these days?
It's very, very important. And I also believe that it is also a gift. And it is the gift that comes out of rejection. The rejected ones and the ones that are not obvious are the ones that the Lord has placed a gift or the ability to discern the times to which we're in. And it's not coming out of scholarship or out of affluence or out of connection. It's just God's predetermined will about who he's going to trust and can trust to be able to discern the times. And so we need prophetic forecasters in this particular season. And I believe that's the reason why we're on right now. This is amazing that the Lord would have us online right now giving prophetic forecasts. I mean, where are the? I was getting ready to go on a rant. I shouldn't. We have 2 days, so I'll get there. But those that you think know what time it is, don't. And
Right.
those that you don't think know anything, do. This is that season.
Yeah,
That
and that's a very powerful word that you're bringing about right there. And the question is, what time is it? So read on.
To know what Israel ought to do.
So Bishop Bloomer, it's almost like they needed to know what Israel ought to do. So could it be that God puts a prophetic tribe in Israel so that they know what to do?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Breaking news has just come across CNN and MSNBC that Prince Charles has tested positive for the coronavirus.
Well, this is just the beginning.
It's just the beginning.
Because the prophecy, if I may, and I'm going to go ahead and bring up the written judgments. I'm getting some movement coming through a line, Prophetess Naomi or Prophet Jessica. Do y'all see what line that's coming through?
No, I'm looking for it, Master Prophet.
It's Janice.
Oh, it's Janice's line, okay. There's a prophetic word here that I want to bring up, and oh, I forgot, I think I shut down my computer, so I have to start all over again. What do you think about this, Larry Reed, in terms of all of what is happening and the importance of having a prophetic forecast in this hour?
Well, what was interesting to me was the comment that I think it was George made, Bishop Bloomer made. Or it may have been you. I was putting the link up. I think it's extremely important. But I think at this moment, what I have always felt like over the last 2 years is that those that are giving us the prophetic forecast need to be pointed out to us. You made a statement. You said 2020. You said this last year. You said that 2020, we're going to begin to see who is not leading us into the future. And so one of the things that I was looking forward to this year, I didn't know that the coronavirus, would somehow or another play a part in the fulfillment of that word and that prophecy. But I really think Korah, the disease, is actually causing us to see things differently in 2020. So I really think that this disease has some kind of assignment to refocus, to cause us to look again, to look beyond the surface of things and have some kind of revelation. And I think that what is also happening, that it is causing us to see who should lead us into the future and who we should be listening to as relates to what God is saying now. So I think that the prophetic and having somebody forecasting the future or giving us the heartbeat of God is extremely important. But just as important is to know who should we be listening to, what prophet we should be listening to.
My God. Can I have permission from the elders here to read something out of the written judgments?
Absolutely.
In written judgments this is in volume 3. I want to start with the national travel permits, and I want us to look at something that we may be walking in right now. And who is able to read that for me? And can you see it on your screen?
Yes, I can see it on the screen.
Yes, I can see it.
I can see.
Okay, who will be able to read that?
I can read that.
Okay, go ahead.
Then I began to travel the landscape and found myself detained at checkpoints. I was shocked when I was detained at the gate from one state to the next.
Now, you know what? I thought about this prophetic word when I heard anyone coming from New York and New Jersey going into Florida, you have to self-quarantine for 14 days. I said, what is that about? I said, hold on. Are we getting ready to start doing this state by state? What's going on? And it was clear to me because I spoke to Reverend Al Sharpton this morning, and I says the ship that, the cruise ship, they found that the virus was living on the surface after the people left the ship up to 13 days. I don't know if any of y'all were aware of that.
Yes.
Yes.
And I said, oh my God. I said, so even if we were having services and someone in your service had the virus, and you thinking that, oh, well, we've already dismissed, that virus could be still sitting there and say, I'll catch you next Sunday. And so I began to wonder, what kind of situation is this? But let's read on further, because I want to say something about the Prince Charles thing, because that is a sign for something that I said to you, Bluma.
Yes.
And you're going to see this in a moment. Continue reading.
I was shocked when I was detained at the gate from one state to the next. I cried, Lord, how happened in a country that was known for its freedom? How can things happen in the land of the free and the home of the brave? And the Lord spoke quite soberly and said, this will be the hour that you will witness the institution of travel permits that will grant individuals license to travel from one state to the next.
Jesus. Jesus.
Many shall be perplexed. Yet this is a judgment that shall be rendered upon a nation built upon lies. Much of what you will see will be masqueraded with the name of the church, but it will be a church that will not represent a spiritual kingdom, saith the Lord. These will be the days of many wars and great uprisings. You will only begin to taste of this bitter root.
Good. Now, this was written in 1996. This is volume 3. Continue reading.
Retribution. I heard the cackling of derisive laughter that pierced my ears, for it seemed so out of place as I grieved over the judgment of God. Then the word of the Lord came unto me, saying, this will be the hour of laughter in the heavenlies. The angels of the Lord understand that the hour and travail of America's repentance has come upon her. The deeds of generations past shall make their visitation, and they shall show no mercy unless a praying people stand in the gap to temper the move of God in this season.
Hold on. So that a praying people will what?
Stand in the gap.
This is why we call the 24-hour revival and are praying, because we are standing in the gap to temper the move of God in this season. Tempering the move of God in this season. Okay, read on.
America has a date with retribution, and none shall stop their meeting.
Now, listen to this next part.
Greater than the bubonic plague.
Now, we probably need to look at what the bubonic plague was like, and if the Spirit is saying greater, then we need to brace ourselves. But listen to this. Read.
And then I heard the voice of wisdom cry out, prepare, prepare, prepare. And the earth began to open up and swallow an entire nation with a terrible calamity. This is the hour that plagues shall consume a vast number of people in Europe.
Now, right now,
Wow.
Europe is starting to be consumed with this. And I wanted us to get this and get clear about this because of something I shared with you, Bishop Luma. Read on.
These plagues shall overrun their boundaries and shall sweep the earth with a terror and vengeance that shall be greater than the bubonic plague, saith the Lord.
Now watch this. I told you, Bishop Bluma, and I told some of you on a conference call that I saw death walking on Capitol Hill.
Yep.
And in this, I am not surprised because it hit an area of royalty, which is going to show that this is going to be a plague that's going to hit from the high houses to low houses.
Well, you told me that you saw death walking on Capitol Hill,
Yeah.
and the next day, I was watching the news, and Senator Rand Paul was diagnosed with the virus.
Yes.
That was the next day, and that was very, very frightening because he didn't have any symptoms. He just randomly went and had himself checked, and he had it. The way that this virus is unveiling itself, on some hands it's showing symptoms, on the other it's not showing you anything.
I was just on the phone. Well, as you know, today I committed the body of Master J. That was my adjutant. And a year and a half ago or so, I hadn't spoken to him in about a year and a half. And the funeral director said to me,
Jesus.
I'll do whatever you want, but he says, I suggest that you do not come in the presence of this at all. And I said, what do you mean? He says, why don't you just commit it virtually and let me call you and do the committal? Because you should not be exposed to this at all. And I was speaking this morning to Reverend Al Sharpton, and we are going to be looking at a new way to do funerals, homegoings, celebrations of life. Some lives won't even get celebrated. I looked in Michigan at the number of bishops that have passed in the last week, which was earth-shaking. And the Lord spoke to me, and I told y'all yesterday that I saw tears in the eyes of every American. And I told that to the prophets. And then when I woke up this morning, I said, tears in the eyes of every American, Lord. He says, yes. And their tears will be in the eyes of every American, where you will also know the days where you can't find no more tears.
Jesus.
So I'm still pondering about that. But continue reading on.
Jesus.
The hour is swiftly approaching that viruses will appear one after the other that will battle and mock the efforts of the medical industry.
Prophet Reed, what would you say about that, or Bishop Bloomer?
Well, it's happening now. What we're seeing now is a flu that showed up in Wuhan in the chickens about a week and a half ago.
In the
And then,
chickens. Hold on,
yes,
don't tell me the chickens, because there's a prophecy in here about a virus coming out of chickens.
yeah, in the chickens and in the birds. And then 2 days ago, there's another virus. I may not be pronouncing it right. The Hananova virus, and somehow another is connected to rodents and to rats. It showed up in Wuhan, and a guy was driving a city bus there yesterday and just fell over dead. This is not a new virus, but it's a resurgence of a virus. So we're seeing some of these things begin to happen now.
Revelations chapter number 6, verse number 8 talks about the pale horse, and the pale horse, that word there is heptite, where we get the English word hepatitis from. And it said, and he shall kill with the beast of the field. And there are sicknesses or viruses that doesn't affect the beast of the field, but when men come in contact with them, it will get into our bloodstreams, and so I'm seeing that hoof of that pale horse touch down on the earth, not the actual horsemen yet, but signs and symptoms that these are the signs of the time. And as government officials have been doing daily briefings, I think that this is very, very important, that the voices of God would brief the kingdom of God on what the Lord is saying, as the prayers are going up to temper God's wrath, so that we can see what is being poured out in that area and what is being stayed over here in this area. And the confusion is going to come from, we're going to see God show up and do some healings, and at the same time we're going to see some medicines, antidotes come forth and give people this sense of false security. And then we're going to see this outpouring of this wrath like never before. I really, really believe that. And I shared with you, Prophet, that the other night I had a dream where I was in Manhattan, and I looked up and I was at the Jacob Javits Center, and I smelled death pouring out of that facility. And then I heard that they are setting it up as a makeshift hospital. And so I don't know if it's going to make it to its status of being a hospital, in as much as it's probably going to be a morgue.
Well, they're setting up morgues now. They're a skating rink I saw. It's an ice skating rink that's going to be set up for a morgue. And if we follow in the path of Italy, which the trajectory is saying that we will, then that's what they're doing now. They're stacking the coffins in churches, actually, in synagogues.
Jesus.
So they are stacking them up, the dead bodies, and they're having to tell their loved ones goodbye over the cell phone, through FaceTime, through some kind of video, because they don't want you to be around the body, because it's an infectious disease. You know, so it's very interesting, man. I want to ask Bishop Jordan this and ask Bishop Bloomer this because of what Bloomer just said, because I was thinking as well. I was looking into the Written Judgments book, and there's so much that is in there that is so direct and specific about what we have not seen before until now. Do any of the prophets think that, you know, because I know how prophecy works sometimes. George just said that it's not the four horsemen, but it's like one of the hoofs. It's like all of these signs that we're seeing and connecting the parallels between the written judgments and what we're seeing happening in our world. Do you think that this is the it, or is this the beginning of a series of it?
This is if I may, this is Bishop Jordan. This is the series of it. When I look at this, Larry, I want to say something because you just gave me another piece of it. So I just want to read the rest of this part of this prophecy, and then I'm going to look for the one with the chickens, because this here is like shaking me up. If this is what you said is so. So finish up this part here, Prophetess Janice. If you're there.
Okay. I will cause those nations that have created diseases for the purpose of evil to taste of their own bitter medicine.
Mm.
Their judgments shall now visit the governments that have funded the creation of this nightmare.
Mm.
And they will taste the harvest upon their shores, saith the Lord.
Mm.
Okay. Now, I want us to look at this here. And
I think Prophet, Master Prophet, if we may go back to that piece there, because she's the judgments is sounding an alarm. And I don't want our listeners and viewers to miss that judgment, that diseases are being manufactured in labs. And the word of the Lord was that there was going to be, and what I love you, but what bothers me about you is when something, you just keep going. I want you to just stop right there for a moment, because it backfired on the people who had it manufactured for something else.
Oh yes. Okay, and that's going to come up again. And I want us to just go back. We'll go back to that again. That's the bubonic plague one in 96.
Mm-hmm.
But Larry said something, and if I heard you right, Larry, are you saying there's another virus that has just been discovered?
Yes, there's another virus that has shown up in Wuhan, and it happened sort of covertly, because one of my paying attention, everybody was looking at the COVID-19, but it showed up in the, I'm saying chickens, it may be birds, but it showed up right there in Wuhan. See,
No.
they're believing that in this shop that they have different animals that is there, because the Chinese eat different types of going on. And what they're believing is that they were animals that were diseased, and they believe it's the bat, that were also along with a lot, besides some pig meat and alongside of another meat. And
Okay.
that, mm-hmm.
I want to just read this one part here, and then you and Bloom is going to go here and pull this apart. Prophetess, this is Written Judgments 4. Now, Bishop Bloma, 1998, this was written, and the copyright is there. You can go in the Library of Congress and find it. Read this prophecy here, and this here has me shaken.
I will now cause a new cure to surface, and out of your own plants, you will discover that I, the Lord, have moved the mountains so that you could discover the abundance of what I have preserved for you. The hour is fast approaching that you shall see a germ connect itself to poultry, and the price of chicken will escalate, that it will become one of the most expensive meats in the earth. This time, I will start to move you toward a meatless diet for a season.
Mm.
The different attacks will start a panic in certain food items, and the economy shall mirror that fear, saith the Lord.
Okay. So that's why I got a little concerned. So I sense that there are viruses that we are looking at, and the virus that has been manufactured. And if I could just go back to the one that we read earlier here, that in Written Judgments, Volume 3, that the judgment shall now visit governments that have funded the creation of this nightmare. That was the word of the Lord in 1996. And they will taste the harvest upon their own shores, saith the Lord. So
I think that we're experiencing that right now. And they have been doing this for years, germ warfare. And it backfired, and it happened right at the time where our country was starting these trade wars, tariffs, and these different types of things were going on. And I don't want to sound like a conspiracy, one of those persons who's coming up with some conspiracies, but this is one that needs to be looked into a little bit closer.
I'm reading from online. It says China reports outbreak of a deadly bird flu among chickens in Hunan province, close to coronavirus epicenter of Wuhan. Bird flu outbreak in Hunan province, which lies on the southern border of Hubei province, the epicenter of the coronavirus outbreak. The bird flu is much deadlier than either SARS or the coronavirus, but as of yet, no human cases have been reported in this outbreak. So this seems to be specific to poultry.
And the hour is swiftly approaching that viruses will appear one after the other that will baffle and mock the efforts of the medical industry. So once they find a cure for another, they're going to have to go back in the lab and find a cure for another.
Yes. Yes.
Now, there's I was on the phone with someone today, and let me see if this is in here. And they were sharing with me that since they that after they have gone through this, they says, I know they said, I know they're going for a test today. They says, I know they're going to probably diagnose me with this. He says, the strange thing, Bishop, is that I have no sense of taste. And then I read where one sports figure said, I think it was the guy that touched all the mics from the team out in the Midwest there, Southwest or something. And he posted something on Twitter, says, can anybody tell me if you are no longer having any taste after this virus? And so someone else told me today, I went through this, I'm eating food, but I can't taste the food. And I said, oh, wait a minute. In Written Judgments, Volume 4, Larry, hear the word of the Lord, taste and see that the Lord is good. Could you read this for me? Now, this is going to be a little different, but something about this, and we've never read this before out loud, Prophetess Janice, if you can read that.
I saw a silver platter appear before my eyes, with delicacies unknown to my eyes. I inquired of the Lord, food, food, food. What kind of food is that is coming in the forefront in this hour? And the Lord said, I shall cause you to see nations that will end the process of starvation as you know it. It will be the time that you will literally see scientists coming to the platform with cures that will prolong life. But the taste shall be denied.
But the what?
Of taste shall be denied.
Say it again.
But the sense of taste shall be denied.
Okay, read on.
The hour shall surely come where there will be a feeding and a diet that will come to the earth, but the physical sense of taste will be denied.
Okay, you're breaking up there. But the physical sense of taste will be denied to men. What are y'all thinking about that?
Well, one of the new symptoms that they discovered about 4 days ago of the COVID-19 and coronavirus, at first it was the cough, shortness of breath, and now they have added a new symptom of doctors are reporting a sudden loss of smell or taste.
Read on the prophecy.
For I shall break the yoke of gluttony that has shortened the lives of my people. And I shall bring forth a day where you shall see new kinds of meals hitting the marketplace. And they will solve the problem of starvation for entire nations. As knowledge increases rapidly in this hour, the day shall come that you will see life not only prolonged, but you will notice great changes in the community that fights disease. The medical society will start to become overpopulated in its community because of the lack of illnesses. Sickness, as you have known, in times past will. The days are upon you that you will start to see a new form of doctor coming into place that will conflict with the former form of medical doctors. This will be the rising of a new group of scientists that shall be known as preventive medicine societies. This group.
And I saw who those doctors were, and I was contemplating about going in to write the written judgments 5. The new group of scientists, doctors I saw coming on the horizon was all robotic. And it was conflicting with the human that was part of the medical science, but the robot that was measuring science, but measuring the length of life, and would begin to prescribe certain things that would keep you existing in certain environments. So in other words, some of these viruses will never go away. It's just that there would be systems that will be built that would be able to sustain the environment.
Well, there was a study that was done. I can't remember when it was done, but I remember reading it, and I saved the link because they talked about it in 2020. Well, one of the things that AI, artificial intelligence, they're looking to replace in medicine is the doctor.
Mm.
And what I read an article about them pulling together what they called dome cities. So they're these environments that are absolutely cleansed. So you're living in these dome cities where everything is together. Here in the South, they're building sort of kind of without the dome part, they're building the models to it where you can walk to work. There's bicycles, grocery stores, bowling alleys, movie theaters are all within a 5 to 10 minute walk. They're closing in the communities. And I read an article. I'm going to try to find it before we're done this today, where they were putting together these dome cities that are cleansed. There's no, you can go into it, and once you enter into it, you go through a process of cleansing or desanitization, and then you're in the city. And when you come back out, you enter into the world, and you go back in and you cleanse yourself again, and you live free from all that's going on outside of these city environments.
Wow.